we're going to make the fillings for Vietnamese fresh spring rolls, and we start with shrimps. These have been boiled in salted water. Boil them until they feel kind of firm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slice them in half, crosswise, I guess that's what you would say. Put it down flat on the board and kind of keep the knife kind of parallel so you don't cut yourself. And as you can see, since these shrimps have been deveined, they have this groove on the back, so that will be your guide, and just slides along there. Again, keep your knife kind of parallel to but slanted away from your fingers. Okay, so the next thing is boiled pork. This is a piece of pork chop. I guess you can use pork loin as well. I just like to use pork chop because it's come in a smaller piece. So it's kind of pretty thick, maybe about 1.5 inches, maybe about 3 centimeters or so. But if you still want even bigger slices, I would cut it on a diagonal. Just keep your knife slanted and slice it into nice thin slice. And if you have a slicer, and the difference is that a slicer would have a narrower blade than the chef's knife, so theoretically it would result in less friction when you slice, but I don't think in this case it makes much of a difference, but just want to show you that's a possibility as well. I have some garlic chives here. It's all washed, and we're gonna put some of it into the spring rolls. But what I want to show is some of these are fairly mature. The way you want to select these is you want the ones that feels thinner, because they'll be less likely to be chewy when you put in the spring roll. So one other way is obviously to tell which is going to be softer, just to feel it. You can feel the ones that are thicker, and of course the other way is just to hold them up, and you can see the one that droops more, that looks more limp, is going to be the ones that's going to be softer. So this is one of the cases where softer is better and hard is not so great. So what you want to do is pick the ones that are smaller in size, which means they're probably younger, and what's more, use the part that's on the inside, which means that these are the younger leaves, so they would be less likely to be tough or stringy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut some short length of it, maybe 10-11 inches, and then we will use them in some of the spring roll. And of course, another way you can tell which is a younger and more tender one is if it's one of the more slim ones. So for example, this one here, you can see that it's quite a bit more stout and more leaves on it. So this one here is obviously more mature, and you can probably feel the leaves. It's kind of thick and heavy, whereas this is pretty soft, and you can see that how soft it is. So again, this is what we can use. So basically take a length very much and just cut it. One way to get them all the same length is use some reference. Like in this case, I'm going to use the width of the cutting board here. So that's about the right length. Well, maybe it's a bit too long. Maybe I do it maybe an inch shorter. So I'm going to do something like that. And the rest you can save. You can stir fry them with garlic. Yeah, that would make for pretty good eating. And another thing is you can usually feel if the leaves is going to be tough or not. If they feel thin and soft. Okay, we're going to slice up some avocado and some hard tofu for the vegan version of the spring roll. Okay, so I got some hard tofu here that I had drained for a while. We're just gonna cut off the end here because we're probably gonna deep fry the rest. So I'm gonna cut the rest into a shape that's useful for frying. And for the spring roll, we're gonna cut maybe 1/4 inch thick. Okay, so we're going to boil the vermicelli now. So basically this is just water that's been salted, maybe a 1/4 with about a couple of teaspoons of salt. So we're just going to put this in there, and they don't take that long to cook, so you need to keep an eye on them because we don't want them to get too soft. One thing is to avoid stirring them because that will break them up and make them lose their shape. So basically just gently move them around a tiny bit, and you can feel when they begin to cook. Okay, so the instructions say to cook for 1 minute and 15 seconds, and we're about there now. So I'm just going to turn this off, and we're going to go and drain it. Okay, we use square, maybe this is probably about 8-inch wide rice paper. I use the Rose brand, but you can, if you cannot find this, experiment, see what you like. Okay, we're going to soak 1 square, let it drain, and we're going to wait for that to soften. And while that is softening, we're going to also soak another one so that this will soften while we work on the first one. Let all the water drain off of the paper because you don't want it to be too soggy. Alright, so here we have a square of rice paper that's been soaked and it has softened. So we're going to roll our spring roll. First, what we do is put down some lettuce, a piece about maybe yay big, and then we are going to put on a patty of the rice vermicelli, and then we're going to layer on some herbs. So let's do a bunch of cilantro, and some mint. Cilantro is optional, mint is not. Without mint, this ain't spring roll, and don't you forget it. Okay, so the herbs down there. Now we're going to put some boiled and sliced pork chop on top. And the reason I put the herb down first is so that when I put the meat on, it kind of weigh the herbs down a bit, so the herb won't move around when I start rolling it up. Okay, so now that's in place. We are going to start rolling this up, and we start at this end. You want to press down on it, make sure it's nice and tight, and halfway there take some shrimp. You want the pink side down, and the reason is so when you roll it up, it will show nice on the outside. And these have been boiled and sliced in half, and of course, as you can see, since they slice in half, they come in two halves that are mirror image of each other. So I like to pick ones that are matching, so they've been nice and symmetrical. Okay, so now you fold the end up, and optionally put in a sprig of garlic chives before you finish rolling it up. Some people don't like garlic chives in this because it can be a little bit chewy, plus they don't like the flavor. Again, push down when you roll. And what I like to do is at the end, I just fold that in so that the end doesn't wrap around and cover up the shrimp on the other side. So there, one Vietnamese fresh spring roll. Yummy! Okay, so now that's done. We move on to the next one. We have one already waiting and softened. So, but before we do that one, we're going to soak another square and let that sit and soften while we roll this roll. Again, dip the rice paper and let it sit. Okay, so again, you want the point of the paper away from you, and we will start again with like this. Roll it up again, tuck the end in there, and finish. And there we go, another lovely, beautiful Vietnamese spring roll. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to also add the dipping sauce into the roll. And the reason I do that is that when I take this to a potluck party, for example, it's easier to have the sauce in the roll already, because otherwise you have to have a separate dipping thing, and that's kind of cumbersome, and it's not easy to just eat. It's just too many things to juggle. So again, I'm going to put the lettuce, start with the lettuce, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a sauce on that, and basically use about the amount of sauce that I normally would use if I was dipping it. And we're going to put the boiled sliced pork chop on it. That should do it. And this time we're going to include some julienne cucumber as well, for a little bit of extra crunch. And of course we have to have the herbs again, so cilantro. Some people don't care for cilantro for some reason. I think it's genetic, and that's fine. Just have to make some without cilantro and make sure we mark it so people don't know which is which of the part. Roll it up tightly, and voila, one roll. You can barely see the sauce on the inside, which is how you can tell the difference between one with sauce in it and one without sauce in it. There. You have one vegan gluten-free spring roll.